Welcome to another episode of Kanopy Conversations. Today we have the privilege of speaking with writer-director Ivan Sen, whose neo-noir movie Limbo is now on Kanopy. Ivan, thanks for taking time to chat with me about your most recent film today. And can you tell us where you're reporting from today, so we can
I
really let folks know how international Kanopy really is?
I'm actually just outside of the Gold Coast in sunny Queensland, Australia, and we actually right now have a Category 2 hurricane heading directly for us. So yeah, it's a bit
Well, we
weird.
will keep this brief in that case. But again, I appreciate you joining us. I've had the honor of seeing your film, and really, it's an engaging title, a captivating title, and it's one that I think our viewers, especially knowing the habits of our viewers and the titles they gravitate toward, I think it's one that they'll definitely enjoy viewing on their own through participating libraries and universities. Uh, I usually begin these conversations by asking our filmmakers about their background in the industry. With so many university students using Canopy, I think it is invaluable to hear from working filmmakers about how they got their start. Can you give us a brief summary of your early career?
Um, well, it started through photography, really. I was a photographer to begin with, and I actually studied that. And But I quickly realized that I wanted to tell stories um, that I couldn't quite tell with the stills camera. And so I went back to university and majored in film. And I went to the film school in Sydney, Australian Film and TV School, and made some short films and made my first feature film about 2 years after I graduated from the film school. And made a lot of TV documentaries, and then I decided just to pursue feature film at that point, and then yeah, just made a feature film every few years since then, and that was a late 90s actually, and so it's been a while now. Um, and yes, still loving it, and I think I'm at the point where I I'm just starting to realize the power that cinema can have, and the the um, the the elements that go into making film. I think I'm at the point where I'm a lot more sensitive now to those elements than I have in the past, and so I'm very excited about. I don't know. I guess it's just a natural evolution that you go through, and but I feel it's kind of the longer you do it, the more you are kind of sensitized to these the elements of filmmaking, and that gets you excited and gets you out of bed, just like it did when I first started studying film, like in the early 90s. And so yeah, it's the flame is still burning.
I love that the flame is still burning. As I think many of our viewers, and certainly many of us who work at Canopy, are true cinephiles and appreciate the medium in, maybe in a way beyond, just the average viewer. The way that it can take us on journeys, start conversations, analyze humanity and our world at large. It's a powerful medium, and I love the way that you described your arc, your career arc in those early days, but continuing to grow as a filmmaker as well, because I think that's important. And I also think our viewers will certainly appreciate uh, having heard that you started as a still photographer and made the transition into motion pictures, because your cinematography and your eye for detail within a film and the landscape, the visual landscape, is just so rich and so dense that it there's always something to look at in your frame. In You can tell the calculation that went into those choices and camera positions. We'll engage that a little bit more as our conversation continues. But uh, thanks for that introduction. Uh, Let's now begin talking about your latest film, Limbo. While our viewers can read a description of the film on platform, I was wondering if you could tell us in your own words what Limbo is about.
Well, it's very much a reflection of what has happened to my Indigenous family over the years. The film, it's a police story about a missing Indigenous girl and the lackluster follow-up from the police in investigating the crime. And this is something that has happened several times within my own family, within my Indigenous family. And so it's something that I really wanted to express cinematically. And apart from that, I've always been interested in being a police officer, believe it or not, ever since high school. I've and I'm still mad on the true crime thing. You know, I've I've always been interested in crime and the police procedure to solve the crime. And funnily enough, the police have had a massive interaction with Indigenous Australians, First Nations people over the years since colonization. And so I guess it's a meeting point between those two things. My extreme interest in police work, um, and my the experience of my family, and the police force over the years, which which hasn't been a positive thing. So these two things come together and express themselves within this film Limbo.
It's a fascinating point, and it's definitely something I want to dive into a little bit further with respect because I saw some as a American or as a viewer in the United States, I saw some direct parallels that I think our viewers could certainly relate to. So much of the story centers around treatment of indigenous populations in Australia. North American viewers will likely see clear parallels to the treatment of Native Americans, especially women on reservations and the unsolved crimes regarding assaults and murders and disappearances as well. Many of these crimes go unsolved, and unfortunately, these individuals are never found. Uh, can you speak to this element of the story a little bit further? You hinted at the fact that
Yeah.
this had direct ties to your family and their treatment. Uh, but again, as we talk about a global story or stories that have a universal appeal, I think that this is one that viewers across North America would relate to, having seen many news pieces and specifically the treatment of Native American populations and women on those reservations getting increasing news attention, so that those crimes don't go unsolved anymore, that they get the investigations and the manpower that they deserve. Because unfortunately, uh, many over the history of these stories, many of them have unfortunately gone unsolved.
Yeah, I mean, in Limbo, we follow Detective Pearlie, who played by Simon Baker, as he goes to this small town and reviews a cold case from 20 years earlier. And the cold case involves this Indigenous girl who went missing 20 years ago. And it really looks at the interaction between law enforcement and the Indigenous experience when it comes to law enforcement in Australia. And that kind of intersection of white and black Australia over crime. Uh, uh, Usually the police are heavily involved with Indigenous people in Australia in a negative way, where they're actually there to arrest them for crimes or on suspicion of crimes. And so when the tables are turned and the police are there to actually help Indigenous people, it's like a U-turn for the police. They've got to actually reverse up and actually start to look at Indigenous people as a victim of crime and not a perpetrator of crime. And in this reversal, you're kind of reversing through 200 years of post-colonial violence and from the law enforcement in Australia. Um, so it looks at that difficult interaction. So and we get a sense of how indigenous families are affected by crime and the response from the government or the police force, how that actually impacts further on the psyche of Indigenous Australians when they're trying to look for justice and actually feel like they are actually being still treated as the perpetrator, as the victim.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting point. Beyond being a police procedural, you really get a sense of the effect on the family during the course of this film. As the young woman who disappeared, you get a sense, based on the relation with Charlie and Emma, the brother and sister of that missing individual, and certainly the toll that took, both the fact that they lost a family member, but also the investigation. So, uh, it's a deep story and a very impactful one that I think our viewers will certainly uh, find connections with and gain, I think, a greater understanding of again, that prejudice and discrimination that unfortunately has been, such a large part of history across borders. Again, I saw direct parallels to treatment here in North America, having watched your film set in Australia.
Yeah, and even Canada as well, I think is a very similar situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, more so. And I mean, it's so widespread. Even the small town which I chose to film in, Cooper Pedy, which is it's an incredible mining town in the middle of Australia where people live underground. This town even had a recent case where a 16-year-old Indigenous Australian girl went missing, and there was no police. Well, there was no police follow-up at all, really. And when I went to that town, I had actually had to explain to the local people that this case is actually not based on this story. This is something from my own family, and you could travel to towns all over Australia and find this very similar story happening everywhere.
Can we talk a little bit about that setting as well? It's such a strong element within the film. Our viewers outside of Australia may be unfamiliar with the location and its ties specifically to opal mining.
Mm.
I mention this because the setting plays such a key role in the film, illustrating the bleak subject matter with the bleak nature of the surrounding landscape. I'd love to hear, if you can give us, let us know how you chose to set the film in this locale, challenges that you may have encountered in filming. I've got to imagine with just the numerous tunnels and holes and all of that created, from lighting challenges to, dolly and camera movement, challenges. But it's a fascinating landscape to witness, especially from the outside, not
Yeah.
having, a direct connection to this. But I'd love to hear how you decided to shoot it here and any challenges you may have encountered therein.
Well, usually when I start a new project, I find the location and then I write the story for that location. And that's what happened here as well. I've had my eye on Cooper Pedy for many years, and there have been a lot of productions go out there and shoot films, but I was I was pretty set on showing this town in a way that it hadn't been shown before. And it's a very kind of, I guess it's a desert town, and people live underground. Well, over 50% of the people live underground because the temperatures, they're just so hot in the summer, and actually gets quite cold in the winter too. But underground, you get a comfortable like 22 degrees all year round, and so it makes sense to build your house underground. And so that also attracted me to write this story about this case, this cold case, and this damaged family, and also this damaged detective, kind of all coming together on this damaged landscape, which is riddled with millions of mining holes. And so I think that the landscape is a very strong metaphor with um, to represent what's actually happened to the characters within the film. These family has had to deal with this child missing for like 20 years, and not only that, the lack of support from the local police, you know, and so you get this almost equally as damaged detective coming to town to try and make sense of it, and I do think you do sense a connection between these characters and this dramatic destroyed landscape where they're trying to look for answers and the thing is that these holes in the ground they're not it's not a place that you know that's throwing answers at you because this got so much mystery within the mines, the holes in the ground. And I mean, in reality, in that town, you know, people talk about how there's bodies down these holes out there, and there's just no way of finding them because there's just so many. The man hours involved in trying to find bodies in a place like this, it's just you know, it's beyond what's the capability of law enforcement.
Just an absolutely fascinating landscape, and it's as damaged as the characters in the film,
Mm.
which again I think is such a visual metaphor in Limbo that I mean, it's just amazing. You do these overhead shots, and to me, it's almost a gasp-worthy moment when you see just the level of natural destruction that's occurred across this landscape. And they're just I mean, there's a beauty in those shots, but there's also, there's a bold statement about what that town and what those people have endured and are currently experiencing. It's a fascinating film. I want to jump a little further into that the visual tone of the film uh, because it's a rich title with some of the most striking black and white cinematography I've seen in recent years. Can you discuss your decision to shoot in black and white as both an aesthetic choice and one that complements the narrative?
Yeah, I mean, the black and white was a gradual decision. Originally, I was planning on I was searching for a certain texture to give the film a kind of a nostalgic feeling, something kind of related with old photographs or some or captured in time. And because this story is about something that happened 20 years earlier, and this family have become kind of frozen in time. And so I was after an image that could help convey that. And the film shooting on film idea wasn't going to work because in Australia it's really difficult to shoot film, and digital color didn't feel right for the film. But I then I started to look at black and white digital, um, and that started to feel a lot better. And the landscape actually lends itself very strongly to black and white because of the minerals in the ground out there. You have a very white kind of ground crust, and you have a lot of shadows out there in the caves, in the holes, and once you go into underground, you know, it's quite dark, and so you have this wonderful natural contrast that gives you the tonal range that you're always chasing within black and white. And the black and white also suited this idea of these people living in a memory, like a photographic memory, and also adding elements in the production design, like the old car that the detective um, drives around in, and just to actually, I mean, it's from the 1960s, and so it just actually just messes with time a little bit, just to kind of throw up the feeling of you know these people are stuck in some time, and we actually don't even know what the time now is either, sort of thing, you know.
Yeah, that level of mystery plays out visually, and I love that you brought up the Dodge, the black Dodge, because it is such a striking object. And one that just on screen, especially against the white landscape, the contrast is just so distinct. Uh, with that, I'd love to, and I don't know if this was intentional on your part, but you hinted at some of it in your comments just now. So I'd love to know, Limbo has some clear connections to what, those of us film historians would certainly say it draws directly from film noir, or more accurately, the way the style of filmmaking has evolved into, neo noir. Did you enter this project with that in mind? And if so, did you have any specific films as reference? Uh, and I ask that because every November on Kanopy, we celebrate Noirvember, and it is one of our most popular campaigns as whether they're older stories or newer stories, mysteries have an appeal and age very well with regard to a damaged police officer, the femme fatale, the black and white photography, or high contrast color photography. All of that kind of plays out, and our fans and our viewers are gravitate to Noirvember every year. So I'd love to, and again, I don't know if this was intentional, but I saw some visual references throughout, and I was like, wow, this is like one of the most amazing film noirs I've ever seen.
I think it's a combination of things. I I I've always been a fan of high key lighting, very contrasting lighting and silhouettes and the shadows. I'm always interested in the shadows um and the mystery that adds to the narrative. And I think, and you combine that with I think the loner going to a small town is something that I've always been attracted to because I've always been interested in the Western actually. And so I think it may be a combination of my aesthetic of lighting combined with the Western in some way, and maybe that equals some neo-noir thing. Um, and the Western has always been within nature, and that's as an Indigenous person as well. I think nature films that show nature and show the human experience within a massive stage such as nature. I've always been attracted to that, and um, the 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 contrasting kind of shadows have also been something which I have done in my stills photography before I even really started this journey into filmmaking. And that started kind of, with even Ansel Adams and the zone system and all of that stuff from black and white photography. And um, I was always interested in that striking imagery in photography where there are shadows and they the image kind of invites you to work out some mystery within that frame. And I think that's probably more of an influence than any kind of noir film. Um, I haven't really watched a lot of them actually. I mean, there's films like Blade Runner that has obviously been connected to those films, and I think I saw that when I was really young in a small town cinema, and that I don't know, maybe 9 or 10, and that had a huge influence on me from the aesthetic point of view, because I don't think I'd seen a film where there are so many like shadows and you have to people are silhouetted, and I think from that age I think that probably had an impact on me. But yeah, I think overall the Western combined with this contrast kind of attraction and darkness is probably the answer there. And you look at Cooper Pedy, the town where we made this film. It's got caves and mines, and there's a lot of mystery to that place in reality as well, because mining towns seem to attract a certain type of person. They're usually running away from something. They're kind of, they want freedom. They want their own lifestyle. They don't want to be anyone's, working for anybody else. And so they're quite guarded, a lot of the people out there, and they have a lot of secrets. And so, I mean, the place that we filmed, um, the 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 house where the well, if you can call it a house, it's more of a cave where the main suspect lives in the story. I mean, that place has a lot of its own dark history as well, which I probably don't have time to get into now. But that's just one example. You know, you go into a place where someone's been living for years out in this mining town in the center of Australia, and there's all this darkness, dark stories there, dark mystery, and I think that also attracted me to putting this film into black and white and giving it that noirish kind of feel as well.
Yeah, the element of shadow, and I can definitely see your connections to the Western, given the prominence of the setting and nature, to the point where the folks live in the ground. The Limbo Motel, which is also a prominent locale within the film, and has a beautiful neon sign out front, which you shoot Simon against multiple times, and the contrast there is just it's so beautiful. Just again, despite the bleak story, you just can't help but soak in the visual lens and all the complicated lighting you're using. So it makes for a beautiful title overall. I'm going to switch gears just a little bit and ask a couple of lighter questions, and kind of behind the scenes questions, and then we can wrap here quickly. But our viewers may recognize lead actor Simon Baker from his work in the TV series The Mentalist, which was had a very popular run and long run on U.S. television. Can you tell us how you came to cast Simon as well as the other members of this small ensemble?
Yeah, well, I've known Simon Baker for many years. I actually talked to him about another project back in 2001 or 2002, but that project fell through. And so since that first meeting, I always wanted to work with Simon because I mean, he did a lot of television there in the States, but I always felt like there were glimpses of a non-verbal kind of acting ability that he kind of has, and there's a presence that he has, which he didn't. I don't think he had a chance to really show a lot of during his television work, and so I was always keen to get him into a film and let him show that off. And I sent the script to him when it was finished, and within 2 days he called back and said, yeah, he's super keen to do it. And because he was looking for something like this to do as well. And um, but I was 100% sure that his golden locks had to go, and and yeah, it just felt like I had to transform him visually for this role to work for him. And he was, he's of course he was into that, and he's looking to expand his acting opportunities these days and do meaningful projects and change things up a bit. And so he was super supportive in every way, and yeah, real trooper on set as well. There was no trailer, in the States he's used to trailers and stuff, but on Limbo he drove his Volkswagen combi van out there, and he during the day he would just sleep in that, and that was his trailer, his own van that he drove out there.
It is a radical transformation for viewers when you see Simon. So if you know Simon from The Mentalist, he has a grittiness both visually. His to your point, his golden locks are gone, and he just has a weathered face and just a kind of an abrasion to him that shows the hard life he's lived or that the characters lived, and it comes through in what is a very complicated performance, and it's a subtle performance, but he definitely, you can tell repeatedly that he's giving moments deep thought, although he's not relaying that via dialogue, but you can tell in the moment he continually does this deep, long caress of his head, and you just know as a viewer, there's a lot going on in that man's head that we're not privy to, but it makes the story that much more interesting because you want to see what's going to happen next. Uh, I want to end by talking about because you've had a long career, and we actually have several of your titles on Kanopy. Limbo is just the latest edition, but I'd love to hear you talk about your experience because Limbo played. Correct me if I'm wrong. Played it both at the Berlinale and at TIFF.
Mhm.
And I'd love to hear you, especially as a filmmaker who brings those projects to those festivals. Can you discuss the importance of that exposure for your film and how such events broaden the audience and international appeal of a film?
Oh, they're vital, to get into the competition of a major festival like the big three in Europe, and then follow that up in the States with TIFF or Sundance. I think especially films that I guess are not considered your popcorn kind of um, candy fodder. The international festivals, they really help put your film on the map, and it gets you in front of the all of the buyers and the reviewers. And I mean, it can be a bad thing too, if you're suddenly thrust upon the world's critics, so it can be if it doesn't go well, it can be something that you probably wished you hadn't had. But generally, it's a really positive thing and vital. I mean, if you when you don't have advertising dollars, it becomes very difficult to get your film out there and seen. And yeah, and actually, I have a lot of respect for these festivals. Some of them have been going for so long, and my favorite films have all played at these festivals, and super inspirational when you go to a place like that and actually become a part of it. Um, yeah.
Yeah, we also view these festivals as such a important aspect of our curation because we look to these festivals and the titles that play there. Because unfortunately, especially here in the United States, independent film and international film has not really found a home on some of our competitors, on some of the major streamers. Uh,
Mhm.
but it's something that we welcome with open arms, that we, make a point of finding titles like Limbo and bringing them to an audience because we feel it's important that our viewers get a global understanding of film and a broad understanding of the history of the medium. So it's I asked the question because we use them as well on the other end on
Mm.
the decision to bring things to platform, and we use it as we have staff headed to they went to Sundance, we have folks going to South by Southwest, all of which are important opportunities for us to preview films before we ultimately make the decision of whether they're either Canopy titles or Canopy content. So. Uh, I'm glad to hear you had a similar experience and opinion. Those critics can be fickle folks, so don't worry about the critics. We don't always we rely more on what the viewers say than what critics say because if it resonates and hits home with our audience, we are happy to have those titles on our platform. Ivan, thanks for joining us today. Limbo is now available on Canopy in the United States, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Viewers can also find other titles by Ivan on Canopy simply by searching his name. As always, access may vary by country and library, but log on to canopy.com to see if you can view Limbo today without ads or subscriptions through participating libraries and universities. Again, Ivan, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm glad we were able to work out the time zones and orchestrate this interview because I really look forward to bringing this to our viewers and giving them an opportunity to see Limbo. And again, I want to emphasize the black and white photography and the setting as well as the performances, make this film just such a deep title that I think you will find incredibly impactful and certainly walk away giving it some thought, giving the subject matter a lot of thought, and for those outside of Australia, giving that landscape some thought because it's incredible. So thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
And
Thank you for supporting the work.
Absolutely. Like I said, it's available now on Kanopy, so add it to your watch list or view it tonight and enjoy it. Thank you.
Charlotte Hayes, missing girl case from 20 odd years ago. I've just been sent out here to take another look at it.
You're welcome to have a look around, seeing as you come all the way out here.
You know, we see when white kids get taken. Police take it serious. People like you come and go. Nothing ever changes.
Why'd you become a cop?
I guess I like catching bad guys.
There's plenty of bad guys around here.
People say things. Before you know it, everyone's believing it.
Where were you when Charlotte disappeared?
I got set up.
What do these symbols mean?
Their family. Sister, brother, mother. The hardest part was not being able to bury her daughter and have the truth come out.
Sometimes you can just never find the truth. You have to find another way to make peace.